Why do people fall in love with you? It's a question you've likely asked yourself, especially when someone seems deeply captivated by you without any obvious explanation. Is it your charm, your sense of humor, maybe your looks? While those might play a role on the surface, Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century, believed there's something much deeper going on. According to Jung, people fall in love with you for two profound reasons, both rooted not in the outer world, but deep in the hidden layers of the human psyche. Let's explore these ideas through Jung's lens, beginning with the first reason: projection. Jung introduced the concept of projection to explain why we often find ourselves drawn to certain people with a magnetic, almost irresistible pull. According to him, every human carries within themselves unconscious parts, repressed traits, forgotten memories, untapped potentials. These elements don't simply disappear. Instead, they linger in the shadows of the unconscious mind, waiting to be acknowledged, expressed, or seen. And often, we come face to face with them not within ourselves, but through others. When you meet someone who seems to click with you on an inexplicable level, there's a good chance it's because they resonate with one of these unconscious fragments. That sense of fascination, that spark, it's not always about who they are, but rather what they awaken in you. You're not necessarily seeing them. You're seeing a reflection of yourself that's been buried deep within. Consider someone who's lived much of their life being cautious, emotionally reserved, or even fearful of vulnerability. When they encounter someone who is open, expressive, and unapologetically honest, the attraction might feel intense and immediate. But it goes beyond admiration. This new person represents a dormant possibility, a part of themselves they never allowed to surface. The attraction feels real, because it is, but its root is unconscious, and its force is transformative. Here's where you come in. When someone falls in love with you, it might not be because of your external traits, but because you represent a missing piece within them. You embody a quality or energy they unconsciously crave: confidence, creativity, tenderness, chaos, structure. You become, in their eyes, a living symbol of something they've longed for without even knowing it. That's the first profound reason why people fall in love with you. You represent something they lack. But here's the catch. Projection is powerful, yet dangerous. If the person doesn't become aware of their projection, they may begin to cling to you not out of genuine love, but out of unconscious dependency. They may idealize you, placing you on a pedestal, believing you to be flawless. And when reality inevitably sets in, when your humanity, your contradiction, your imperfections show up, the illusion begins to fall apart. What once felt like perfection now feels confusing, even disappointing. This collapse isn't a failure of love, but a failure of awareness. And Jung saw this not as a tragedy, but as an opportunity for growth. The breakdown of a projection is the beginning of a deeper truth. In the next part, we'll explore the second reason Jung believed people fall in love, and it's even more fascinating. But for now, just remember this. Sometimes, when someone says "I love you," what they might really mean is, "I love the part of myself I see in you." Now let's go deeper into Jung's second reason, perhaps the more mysterious one, why people fall in love with you. You awaken a powerful unconscious image they've carried within for years, maybe even since childhood. This idea revolves around two key archetypes Jung introduced: the Anima and Animus. According to Jungian psychology, every man carries within him an unconscious feminine image, his Anima. Similarly, every woman holds within her psyche an unconscious masculine image, her Animus. These are not simple gender roles or social ideas. They are profound psychological blueprints shaped by early experiences, parental influences, culture, myths, and the collective unconscious. These archetypes are charged with deep emotional energy. Over time, they develop into powerful internal figures. So when someone comes along who resonates with this image, who seems to fit the blueprint, even vaguely, the attraction can be overwhelming. It can feel like fate. You meet a stranger, and suddenly there's a rush of familiarity, intensity, and desire. You might say, "It feels like I've known you forever." That's not just romance talking. That's the psyche recognizing a pattern, a symbol, a long-lost internal presence reflected in someone real. Let's say a man's anima is formed around tenderness, mystery, creativity, and emotional insight. Shaped by early impressions of his mother or female caretakers, one day, he meets a woman who radiates those same qualities. She might not even be aware of what she's doing, but to him, she feels like a revelation. Not because of who she really is, but because she mirrors something sacred he's been carrying within his unconscious. The same can happen in reverse with the Animus. That brings us to Jung's second reason. You awaken an inner image they've unconsciously carried their entire life. You don't just represent a missing trait. you activate an emotional archetype. You become the symbolic match to a deeply rooted psychological template. And here's what makes it even more intense. When this projection happens, it often creates a sense of destiny. People say things like, "I feel like we were meant to meet," or "It's like you're the missing part of my soul." From a Jungian perspective, these feelings are not proof of soulmates, but of projection. Your presence fits their inner mythology so well. It feels like cosmic alignment. But again, there's danger in this magic. When someone falls in love with an internal image projected onto you, they aren't truly loving you. They're loving a fantasy, a psychological idea that took form long before you entered their life. It's not about your real thoughts, flaws, or daily habits. It's about what you symbolize to them. And here's the painful twist. The more human you become in their eyes, the more you diverge from the perfect inner image, the more fragile the illusion becomes. Conflicts arise, disappointment seeps in. The relationship begins to feel difficult, messy, even doomed, not because you changed, but because their fantasy couldn't survive reality. It's a pattern that explains why so many passion haunts whirlwind romances burn bright and then collapse in confusion. What starts as soul recognition ends in heartbreak because no real person can perfectly embody an archetype forever. Yet Jung didn't view these projections as mere illusions to avoid. In fact, he believed they served a crucial purpose: to trigger growth. Every time someone projects onto you, or you project onto them, it becomes an invitation, a call to become more aware of your inner world. And that's where the transformation begins. Despite the confusion and pain projections can cause, Carl Jung didn't view them as mistakes or failures. Quite the opposite. He believed that these intense, sometimes disorienting connections serve a vital purpose in our psychological development. In fact, falling in love, when it's rooted in illusion, is a key driver of individuation, Jung's term for the journey of becoming whole. Think of it this way: every person you fall in love with is a mirror. What you see in them isn't always about them. It's often a reflection of something within yourself. Sometimes that reflection is beautiful: your hidden confidence, your capacity for joy, your creative potential. Other times, it's uncomfortable: your fear of abandonment, your unresolved anger, your longing to be seen. Either way, the person becomes a symbol, a carrier of meaning. So, when someone falls in love with you, they might truly believe they're seeing something divine, rare, or even perfect in you. And in a sense, they are. But the magic isn't entirely in who you are, it's in what you awaken inside them. You become a psychological invitation, a living symbol that stirs something dormant in their soul. And the same is true for you. You fall in love with people who unconsciously represent parts of yourself that you need to rediscover, reclaim, or develop. Some people activate your inner fire, pushing you to grow. Others reflect your fears or challenge your sense of identity. And some, perhaps the most unforgettable ones, shatter your illusions completely, forcing you to rebuild yourself in more authentic ways. Not every love story is meant to last. Some connections are simply meant to disrupt, to break your patterns, to challenge your assumptions. Jung referred to these as synchronistic events, encounters that may not have a logical explanation, but are rich with psychological significance. When someone enters your life at a specific moment and evokes strong emotion, it might not be coincidence. It may be your unconscious recognizing exactly what it needs in that moment to evolve. This reframing is powerful. Rather than seeing heartbreak or romantic confusion as failure, Jung encourages us to ask deeper questions. What is this person showing me about myself? Why am I so drawn to them? What do they represent in my unconscious? Awareness is the key. Once you start to recognize the patterns, the projections, the inner figures, the emotional blueprints, you begin to take back your power. You stop expecting others to complete you. Instead, you start doing the inner work of integrating those lost parts of yourself. You become less reactive, more grounded, and far less likely to fall into the same painful relationship cycles. Imagine a woman who always falls for emotionally unavailable partners. At first, she might think it's just bad luck. But through Jung's lens, she begins to see a pattern. Perhaps she is unconsciously drawn to partners who reflect her own fear of vulnerability. Maybe their distance allows her to avoid confronting her own hidden emotional needs. Once she sees this, she can start to heal, not by changing the people she dates, but by changing her relationship with herself. This is the power of Jung's perspective on love. It transforms love from a game of luck or chemistry into a profound tool for self-discovery. Relationships stop being just about companionship. They become vehicles for inner transformation. And remember, this applies to you as well. When someone falls in love with you, they may not be seeing the full reality of who you are. They may be responding to a version of you their psyche desperately wants to see. That's not your fault, and it's not necessarily their fault either. It's simply how the unconscious works. But if both people become aware of this dynamic, something beautiful can happen. The projection can give way to true connection. Illusion can become intimacy, and love, instead of being a fantasy, becomes a mirror in which two people see themselves and each other more clearly than ever before. So now, with both reasons clear, first, that people fall in love with you because you represent something they lack. And second, because you awaken an inner image they've carried it's time to ask. What does this mean for how we approach love? Understanding Jung's ideas can fundamentally shift your perspective. Instead of being flattered, confused, or devastated by the way people fall for you or how you fall for others, you start to approach relationships with clarity, self-awareness, and emotional intelligence. Take a moment to reflect. Have you ever felt someone was too into you, too quickly? That they seemed to assign you roles or qualities you never actually showed? Or perhaps you've done the same, fallen head over heels for someone only to realize later that your feelings were based more on your idea of them than their actual self. That's projection in action. And here's where the real work begins. Once you recognize projection, you don't have to reject the love or connection, but you do have to step into responsibility. You have to ask, what do I truly feel for this person? Beyond the projection, and who are they really? Beyond the fantasy I've created. Likewise, when someone is drawn to you, it's important to notice how much of that connection is based on who you really are versus what they hope you'll be for them. It doesn't mean the love isn't real, but it does mean that love has to evolve past the initial illusion. If it doesn't, disappointment is inevitable. Jung's solution was never to avoid relationships, but to engage in them consciously. He saw love not as a passive experience that happens to you, but as an active process of psychological transformation. Every relationship is a classroom, every heartbreak, a lesson, every spark of attraction, a message from your unconscious trying to tell you something important. Here's the ultimate takeaway. People fall in love with you not because you are perfect, or even because of who you are on the surface. They fall for the symbolic meaning you carry in their inner world. You either reflect something they're missing, or you activate a powerful archetype they've unconsciously carried their entire life. The same goes for the people you fall for. So, what can you do with this awareness? First, stop blaming yourself when love fades or relationships break. Sometimes, you were never truly seen to begin with. You were a screen for someone's projection, and sometimes, you were the one projecting. Second, use these experiences as mirrors. Ask, what part of me was I trying to meet through them? What do they reflect that I need to develop in myself? These questions lead to individuation, the process of becoming a whole, authentic human being. Third, don't fear intensity in love. Intensity often signals that something deep is being stirred, but don't stop at intensity, go deeper. Get curious, become conscious. Finally, love becomes truly powerful, truly real when both people can step outside of the projection and say, I see you as you are. That's rare, but it's possible, and it's worth aiming for. So, the next time you feel that undeniable pull or someone seems irresistibly drawn to you, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, what part of the soul is waking up right now? What are they seeing in you? What are you seeing in them? And let love, no matter how fleeting or forever, guide you not just toward another person, but toward a deeper understanding of yourself. If this exploration of Jung's ideas on love, projection, and inner transformation resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more thought-provoking insights into psychology, relationships, and the human experience. Your growth starts with awareness, and we're here to walk that journey with you.